Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 9. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Back to recap the Steelers' third preseason game. Steelers 3-0 on the season, beating the Tennessee Titans 18-6 in Nashville. Dave, there is a lot of good to talk about, one from a health standpoint and two from how the starters played. So we got a good show today.
Absolutely. Is this the Two-Czar Skipper podcast?
They want it to be. Fans want it to be.
Did I connect to the right podcast here? I thought this was a Two-Czar Skipper podcast. No.
I think I had like four people say they thought I was saying Tupac last night. Like I had four people saying they thought I was talking about Tupac, which
Tupac and Benny Smalls.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Look, 3-0 in a preseason. First, the Steelers will have an opportunity. Not that it matters. And last time I looked at it, I don't think they give any trophies when that's involved. But obviously, if they close out their preseason undefeated Thursday night against the Carolina Panthers, it'll be the first time since 1997 that the Steelers have gone undefeated. They went 5-0 that year. How old were you in 1997?
Grand total of 4 years old.
Ooh.
It's been a while.
Oh, it has been a while. So, that's a little something, a little trivia to put on your friends there, Steelers Nation. But, look, when you go back over this game, I tell you the first thing that crossed my mind about an hour before kickoff, Alex, was, oh, no, not rain again. Is this thing, A, going to be delayed, and B, is this going to prevent – is Tomlin going to get cold feet there right at the end and maybe sit some guys that we thought we were going to see? Well, he treated it like, I guess, any other situation there. And I think he even praised the team afterwards, saying how they were able to adjust to all that and how they still managed to play with good energy along those lines. So, personally, I thought the first preseason game was definitely exciting from start to finish. The second preseason game, not so much. But last night, man, I found myself sticking close to that thing all throughout. Because of the way the rotations were used, and of course how the game flow went as well too. I wasn't a big fan of Joshua Dobbs, finishing that thing out with about 7 minutes left. I thought they could have thrown Devlin Hodges a bone and got him in there. But top to bottom, I don't think there was a lot not to like in that game.
And just big picture, starting offense, starting defense, they played about as well as you possibly can play. The offense moved the ball consistently, got the touchdown to Juju. Starting defense came in, just really stalled out Marcus Mariota and that starting Titans offensive group. So, and special teams played as well. So, on paper, to play on the road, your first road game of the year in a rainy condition, a lot of young guys in key roles that haven't been there before. I thought it was a clean game overall. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but I thought it was clean overall. And I thought you got really good tape from both offense and defense. Is that a fair way to look at it? 30,000-foot view?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, you got to see the special teams units, what we think was the dress rehearsal, probably 10 out of 11 spots, 9 out of 11 spots on throughout the night there, or at least through the first half of the game. I thought we got a good look at that, and I thought overall those units played well. And as you mentioned, offense came out and, of course, sputtered a little bit there. And I think Ben Roethlisberger was rightful in kind of taking a little bit of blame for some accuracy issues there. But, Vance McDonald, let's get all those Vance McDonald drops out of the way during the preseason, because we know he's good for him, right? And he certainly had one, maybe two there at the beginning of that thing. But I think once they got in that rhythm there on that long scoring drive, and I don't think you could have. Obviously you would have liked it to been, a total of 20 plays, all successful. But, I was glad to see them end with that last drive the way the way that they did with the score. They were able to rotate in, obviously, a lot of wide receivers as part of that. They got some no-huddle action in on that as well, too. So I think if you were to map it out, and if I was to map it out that same way to you and tell you that that's the way that I thought the game or the 20 to 22 snaps that the starters were going to get in that game was going to go, you would have bought that from me right then and there.
Yeah, and the biggest number, and we'll start with the quarterback because, again, I think we'll go position by position, no hits from Ben. I mean, Ben was talking about how he wanted to play this game, get that first hit out of the way. Well, he'll have to wait till week 1 in Foxborough for that to happen. No sacks allowed on the afternoon for the entire game, only 2 quarterback hits overall. Neither of them came on Ben. So really couldn't have asked for a better, game plan and then production from a protection standpoint and then an execution standpoint. Ben hooking up with Juju on that post route. And I thought I don't know if it was intentional or not because he seems to get game plan a little bit in game 3, but not like it would in the regular season game. But it was a lot of horizontal ball early for the Steelers offense. Just, Titans were playing a deep shell. You're hitting underneath on these crossing routes and screen plays and just taking the check down. And then it felt like Tennessee finally got impatient, started rolling their safeties down. That's when you got Ben taking the shot to Juju, which was no safety help over the top. That's whenever Rudolph hit Washington for the touchdown, no safety help over the top. So it felt like the Steelers offense was very patient. The quarterbacks took what was there. And then once Tennessee started to change their coverage, got tired of getting dinked and dunked on, then Pittsburgh took their shot. So that seemed to be the way the game evolved, and I just appreciate that patience from the offense as a whole to wait and take the chances when they finally reveal themselves.
It's a trap.
It's what it felt like, yeah. Just wait them out.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, once they did start, and I went back trying to look for it a few times there, and I couldn't see any visible signs of a signal there, or if it was just a great read on both parts. I think it's the latter there. But to recognize the safety rolling down, and to recognize that the blitz was coming, and that you were basically, or that you were going to get a cover zero in the back, and whenever that happens, you're going to get one-on-one on the outside there, and I thought Juju did a good job. Is that a sight, adjustment there? Was that the call all along? I don't know, but I mean, it was definitely a cover zero, and it looked like most definitely that Ben and Juju were on the same page there. I like how Juju kind of faked that thing a little bit out gave a little nod to the outside then, and then inside on the post. And when you have a zero coverage like that and the safety's diving down deep, you certainly don't have to worry about a middle of the field defender there. And Ben put that ball where only Juju was going to catch it, and Juju caught it. And really same kind of as you mentioned, the same issue there, or the same instance there with the Mason Rudolph to James Washington deep post pattern as well too, and so good to see those two. How many times do we get to see that at Oklahoma State when going through the tape? So I thought that was obviously a positive, a good confidence builder, I think, when it comes to, look, I mean, James Washington, it's not like he needs any more preseason confidence at this point, but it was good to see Mason be able to air one out to Washington there, and really only played what did he play like 14 snaps, 16 snaps, something like that. And,
14.
Yeah, 14 snaps there. So, and we'll talk about the interception here, I'm sure, in a minute here. But not a lot not to like. And as you said, they did stay patient. Some good work underneath there by both quarterbacks and over. And look, I mean, even a running game with James Conner, we got to see some of that power move to the right side and then back to the left side with Pouncey pulling. I remember going into, this was the first action that both Pouncey and David DeCastro saw. They both looked healthy and fine as well. Like the blocking, like the pass pro. How about James Conner? That's a grown man pass protector right now.
Yeah, the improvement he's shown. I still remember talking about his rookie year, that Jacksonville game, the play we bring up time and time again, and just see the improvement that he's had. And really, I just think they've all improved, and the pass rushers get home too. And I think that's a direct byproduct of backs on backers and how much they work that in camp, and they teach it in the classroom and apply it to the practice field, and it translates to game day. So you just see those little pockets of, the practice paying off, because you see some of these opposing running backs. I think all 3 games you've seen a Steelers inside linebacker, whether that's even someone like a backup like a Robert Spillane, just dust some of these opposing running backs because those guys just haven't worked in those situations in the practice field, and so they haven't really had a chance to take it to a stadium. So I think the Steelers really practice smart. They tackle well. That was noted on the broadcast last night. This team tackles well because they tackle in camp. They're one of the 3 or 4 teams, if that still tackle and have full contact sessions in practice. So a lot of the things you see in training camp apply to in-stadium work. I think it's why you get a cleaner and better product, at least this preseason, than some other teams.
Yeah, Samuels did a great job on that touchdown. On that touchdown as well too. So kudos to him. And we mentioned James Conner. We've mentioned Benny Snell earlier in the preseason, doing some good things as far as pass protection goes. So once again, not outside of the drops by the drops by Vance McDonald and the inactive, a little bit of off target, especially on that early out route to Juju there. Outside of that, I was happy with what I saw out of the first and second team offense. Now the interception by Mason Rudolph, I knew as soon as that ball, and I put it on Twitter right away, that had to be a miscommunication between Rudolph and Washington, and I mean, it absolutely was. There's no two ways about it there. Whether or not Mason read something wrong or Washington read something wrong there, Mason obviously thought that Washington was going to continue to break that thing out to the outside. That didn't happen. And then if you go back and look at the tape too, you see Ryan Switzer running free underneath there. On top of it. So I'm sure they talked about that, or will talk about that quite a bit today on when they're in the film session breaking that down.
I'm pretty sure that was on Washington. He sat down versus man coverage. It was trail technique, cornerback inside hip underneath, and he just broke that down to a curl. And the rule is you run versus man, you run away versus man coverage, you sit versus zone. He sat versus man, and I think he should have ran the out, and that's where Rudolph was throwing it. So most times, miscommunication, not always obviously, but most times it's on the receiver, not the quarterback. But I'm pretty sure just based on the coverage, Washington should have broke that to the sideline. He sat down, and that's why the pick was. So I put that on Washington more than I did Rudolph.
Yeah, and I feel the same.
But to go with the quarterbacks as a whole, to go to Rudolph, I'm just happy to see him take that deep shot. And again, it wasn't that he wasn't willing to take it. When it was there, it just I think a lot of the coverage didn't allow him to in camp and so the early preseason games. But when he gets that one-on-one coverage, he doesn't have the biggest arm, but I think his accuracy and placement, he's always hitting his guys in stride. And you compare that to someone like, I don't mean to pick on him here because there was some good and some bad. We'll talk about Josh Dobbs here in a second. But Josh Dobbs has a really good arm, a better arm overall, just in terms of the quote-unquote arm talent. He's better than Mason Rudolph. But it feels like almost every deep ball that Josh Dobbs throws is slightly underthrown. And maybe that's a little intentional, but probably not. And Rudolph just seems to hit his guys in stride more often. I don't know if you feel the same way, but you look at the 3 40-plus yard receptions Washington has this year. 2 are from Dobbs. Both were underthrown, and then the one from Rudolph, which should have been to maybe a little more to the inside, but it was still over the shoulder in stride, and I still thought a well-placed football. So while I think Rudolph doesn't have the best arm, I've said this before, his accuracy and his placement I think is really good, maybe second on this team, only behind, of course, Big Ben.
And then the throw down the right sideline to Johnny Holton. I'd like to go back and look at that slow down. I thought Holton probably could have done maybe a better job of footwork. Look, it was a great play by the defender to make sure he got carried out of bounds there. But Holton did come down with it. I felt that ball was enough inside the sideline there. That the angle that he went up or the way he kind of maybe tried to hide. I just felt that Holton should have came down with that ball in bounds because that definitely was an on-target throw, and obviously his own guy caught it there. So Rudolph. Look, I think we've seen pretty much everything that we went into this preseason hoping to see when it comes to Mason Rudolph, right?
I think so. And we'll talk about this when we compare it to the Dobbs situation, but I feel like, again, yesterday was another step in that separation between, Rudolph and Dobbs, and Rudolph really feels in lockstep and in control with his number 2 spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I know Mike Tomlin said after that second game that, there wasn't the separation and blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, obviously putting in, having Rudolph go second in this. I mean, we would have been more shocked if that wouldn't have happened, I thought. We've gotten to the ending, or we're getting to the ending point that we thought we would get to, and I'm sure the Steelers thought and hoped they would get to that, to the same ending point as well too. They're probably just not going to be a little bit more forthright in it, and calling it at this point. And I don't blame them for that. But I mean, outside of maybe wanting Rudolph maybe to push it up a little bit more, up the field a little bit more, and obviously situations dictate that, coverages dictate that. You obviously don't like the miscommunication that happened between him and Washington last night, but, it seemed to be more on Washington, obviously, than it was on Rudolph there. Not, like I said, I think we've gotten to the ending point that we both thought that we would get to throughout this preseason.
And the transition to Dobbs, I mean, you saw some really good from Josh Dobbs. I thought he had one of the best plays of anyone this preseason on that throw to Trey Griffey, the one that was initially ruled incomplete challenge. Tomlin won it, where he escaped two guys that came up the middle, an all-out blitz, and he ran away from it, rolling to his left, and makes a strong, accurate throw on the move to Griffey for whatever that was, a 20-yard gain. There was another one, a back shoulder play, a free play to Brandon Riley a little bit later in the game. But I thought Matthew wrote about it well, about the scattershotness of Josh Dobbs and the up and down. You had the great play to Griffey. The next play, he overthrows Zach Gentry in the left line. I don't know how you overthrow a guy that's 6'8", but he did it. You have the back shoulder to Brandon Riley later in the game, and then one or two plays later, he's throwing a pick in the red zone that Tomlin talked about after the game. So it just feels like you have so much good at Josh Dobbs, and there's talent there. I've talked about that. I mean, it's frustrating because this guy can be so good, but there's so much inconsistency, there's so much inaccuracy in his game, and it just doesn't work in the NFL. So that's the concern with Josh Dobbs. This dude can make some great plays other guys simply can't, but he can also make some plays that every quarterback has to be able to make.
What did you think about that last pick there off Gentry? Did you think Gentry should have had that?
That was my initial thought, that it clipped off his hands. It was a little high, but I know why Dobbs threw it high. Watching it back again, and unfortunately we didn't get a good replay of it, I think it was tipped by that defender undercutting that route that knocked it back up in the air. Is that where did you think?
I don't know. I've slowed that thing down, and man, it's tough. I don't know if you saw it in my timeline last night, but it sure doesn't look like it's tipped. I'm not saying, man, like you said, the replay, they cut to the replay right after it goes through his hands. So it is tough to tell from that angle. And, I tried to zoom the other one there, and man, the best that I can look, it was, I'll tell you this, it was close.
Yeah.
It was just over. If it wasn't tipped by the defender, then it was just slightly over, his leaping hand there. But I mean, I personally, my initial takeaway, and it still is until I find an angle that proves otherwise, I thought Gentry should have had that. But okay. I mean, and make no mistake about it, Tomlin didn't. Yeah, that was kind of rare for Tomlin to put that kind of criticism out there,
Yep, to be, and I'll get the quote here because I read about the article, and it was a brief thing, and it was an obvious point, but it was one that usually you don't get from Tomlin right after the game. When he was asked about just evaluating Dobbs and the quarterbacks in general, Tomlin said, quote, Dobbs got to take better care of the ball, particularly in situations, referring to red zone situations. We got the ball in the red zone, man. That's points on the board. Got to be a little bit more prudent there. So yeah, Dobbs, 2 picks on the year, no touchdown. I don't think he's led a scoring drive at all, or a touchdown scoring drive this whole preseason. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So it's been good. I mean, again, there's talent there, and I'm still probably going to have him as a number 3. Obviously, Devlin Hodges didn't work. We'll see what happens to Division of Labor for the 4th game. But Rudolph, I think, is very much in the driver's seat right now to be that backup.
Yeah, what do you take away from Hodges not playing in that game?
I don't know. I really didn't expect it. It's hard to get 4 quarterbacks in a game when Ben's playing the first quarter. And how much is Hodges even part of the preparation, the game plan that week? You're on the road. Is he even getting reps in practice that week? Because you got to get the other 3 guys ready. So I'm not surprised by it. I'm not going to take it as a terrible sign. Obviously, it'd be a much better sign if he did play. I'm curious to see how things work on a short week for the Carolina game. I would really like Hodges to get a lot of playing time. Obviously, he will play. How much seems to be up in the air right now. But I'm not surprised that Hodges sat this one out.
Look, we talked about this thing beforehand too. You kind of know what you have in Dobbs. I mean, was there a reason to play him the entire second half other than maybe hoping he'd put on a little show for maybe another team? I mean, did that thought ever cross your mind? I mean, this is probably a perfect time to kind of segue here. We would plan to talk about the sudden retirement of Andrew Luck, and you just to me, and I still think the odds are low of this happening, and I kind of had a little bit of fun with the title and the subject matter during a post before the game on Sunday there, talking about will the Steelers do some joshing around here in the next week or so. You can't help but think maybe right now that with the sudden retirement of Andrew Luck, and then when you look at the backups over there, I mean, let's face it, the former Ole Miss, who is it, Kelly, and
Kelly.
And who's the other one over there
in Indy?
Yeah, the other one,
Jacoby Brissett.
No, backups. I'm losing thought on who their other backup quarterback is. Anyway, I mean those two guys, Kelly and the other guy, are really just number 3 guys. Obviously Brissett was your number 2 over there, and he'll now be the starter. I couldn't help but think, man, this team is the Colts are in need of a quarterback with the escapability and the mobility that a guy like Jacoby Brissett brings you. Kind of along the lines of Josh Dobbs, right? I mean, and that's instantly where my mind went. Could Indianapolis now be a team that would be in play for Joshua Dobbs?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, these things can be sudden. It just takes that one team. I've heard that they've had interest in Nate Sudfeld. I think there's a connection there between the head coach and the Philly days. I don't know if I see the point, though, if I'm Indy. Like, you got to build around Brissett. I'm not trading away assets in the future for trying to rebuild this team and try to pour all the draft capital I can and get surrounding this team with starting talent, not backups. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I'd be surprised. And then again, what I wrote about with Josh Dobbs last week is that, to see a guy with only 12 career pass attempts, is there a trade market for that? I mean, we're talking, again, at best, a conditional 7th round pick. And that's, again, at best. So I think it's going to be a really light market for someone like Josh Dobbs, because usually when these trades happen, it's for guys with a lot more of a Sunday resume than what Josh Dobbs has.
Yeah, I mean, look, I still don't. I would bet against it, and why wouldn't you? I mean, Dobbs obviously hasn't lit it on fire either. I mean, he's made some nice plays. Don't get me wrong. I mean, and more so with his feet, I think. But I mean, you can't. I mean, if you want to find if you are that comfortable with a guy like Devlin Hodges being your third, why wouldn't you take the bologna sandwich there? When
yeah, but are they offering you the bologna sandwich?
Yeah, we don't know. We won't know.
Right.
Unless they're not going to come out and tell us that they offered. That they turned down an offer on it. So either it happens or it don't, and that's the only way we're going to find out about if something is. But you say would Indy trade away draft capital? I don't know. I mean, would you consider a 6th or 7th round pick? Trade that away for a guy like Dobbs?
If I'm Indy,
right.
I wouldn't. I mean, I think you go with Brissett, and then if it doesn't work this year, you evaluate and you invest in a franchise guy for next year. I just don't know what the point of what Dobbs to be your number 2. You're not winning with him. I mean, you're either going to maybe compete with Brissett or you're not going to win at all. So, you're just trading away a pick, not that you're not going to have next year that you might need in a move for a quarterback or some other asset, receiver or whatever that you might want to trade for. And you can point to other teams too. I mean, you got Carolina. Cam Newton's down right now with a foot injury that, has his status up in the air. Kansas City just lost Chad Henne for several weeks, and they just signed Matt Moore. Maybe they could be in the market. Dobbs is in the shades of Mahomes. But again, it just usually you have to have some level of experience, some sort of, I've proven it on your resume for teams to take a flyer on you. I mean, we're talking a Cardell Jones situations. I actually think there's a lot of parallels right now between where Josh Dobbs and Cardell Jones were at in their careers, where I just don't know the value is going to be there for a guy like Josh Dobbs to have anything outside of maybe that conditional 7th round pick.
Obviously, Ben Roethlisberger's not going to play in this finale. How much time? Let's assume that Mason Rudolph's your number 2 right now. how much time are you going to get him behind a non-starting offensive line too? Because you got to keep that in mind. You throw any quarterback that you throw out there in this game against the Panthers. Now, obviously, the Panthers aren't likely to play their top defensive players, yada yada. So I guess it's apples and apples, if you will. But I mean, how much time do you want to get Rudolph in this game, or is this just a situation where you let Dobbs and Devlin Hodges go at it?
I mean, if it was me, ideally, I probably wouldn't play Rudolph at all. Again, I'd be really interested in Hodges starting. I guess the biggest obstacle to that is being a short week and trying to put that guy that hasn't started before in that starting role and just getting him in that mindset. So that might be the issue there. If you made me play Rudolph, it wouldn't be more for than a series or two, and then I want to just give Hodges especially, but I want to give Dobbs a lot of work too. So those would be the two guys I'd focus on, and I think that's how it's going to go. If Rudolph plays, I think it'll be minimal, and it'll be the Josh Dobbs, Devlin Hodges show. I think the better question is, does this game mean anything? Are there still jobs on the line right now? Is Dobbs still competing with Hodges, or do you think that battle is over? I mean, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if they don't trade Dobbs, then it's Dobbs' job, if you ask me. And no, I'm still not putting Hodges on my practice squad either. But I mean, I would look. I mean, I think he's deserved a shot. I mean, and yeah, I've seen enough out of Dobbs right now. In fact, I'm to the point now to why not let Hodges have the whole damn thing?
Yeah.
You know, let's see it. You hang 40 on him, then we'll talk. And I know it's still a third string defense or what have you, but yeah. Look, I mean, there's been all this. They've said the right things about him. He's done the right things on the field. So, and he didn't play. I thought it was a perfect opportunity to give him with about 7 minutes left to put him in that game last night. Obviously, they didn't, and they do all that, and they come down. They're going to kneel down. At the end of the game there. I mean, look at this. And, that's another thing. Why isn't Tennessee going for it on fourth down? And this is a preseason game, man. I mean, you can't tell me your kicker needs that kind of work, right, on those chip shot field goals. I don't know. I'm scratching my head at several points during that game with some of the decisions there, and especially with the Steelers late. I mean, do you just want to get out of there healthy, or why not try to take a shot or two at the end zone there? But that's another talking point altogether. Long and short of it, what I would do is, if you're not going to play Rudolph in this game, if you feel like you don't need to get him any work, then just let Hodges have the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm all for Hodges playing as much as possible. I just wonder how the operation might change because they play Thursday. I mean, today's already Monday when we're recording this, so can you get Hodges in the right spot and be fair to him to start in that short amount of time and be ready to go through?
They're only going to have one. They're only going to have one practice. You get Tuesday's practice, right. You travel Wednesday, and the game Thursday. Yeah,
so that is putting Hodges in a tough situation, which can be good. You see how a guy responds to a tough situation, but you want to make sure you put him in a spot to succeed if that's the plan that you want to go. So my thought is basically nothing has really changed from last week. I think Rudolph's still the number 2. I think Dobbs is still the number 3. Can Hodges do something? Yes, we'll have to see it. But I think things are basically still in the same order than they were a week ago.
I mean, I agree. It's Roethlisberger, Rudolph, and Dobbs, and then Hodges. I mean, the same way it's been for me all throughout the preseason.
Yeah. But I'm excited to watch Hodges go because Tomlin will have tape, and he shows tape to these guys about guys that have made their team in a 4th preseason game. Whether that's a Rosie Nix, I think you mentioned Terrence Garvin before. I think maybe even Tomlin talked about what AB did in his rookie year. I think maybe in a preseason finale. So there's success stories coming out of this game. So I don't want to pretend like windows are closed right now. They're still playing a game. There's still evaluation. Cutdowns haven't happened yet. So guys can't check out. They got to be locked in as ever because this is the last chance.
Absolutely, and we've spent probably way too long on the quarterback, but I mean it's an important position, and obviously Ben got action there. All right, the wide receivers, Deontay Johnson unfortunately did not play. That's 2 missed preseason games now, and can you look outside your window, Alex? Do you see the train?
It's leaving the station. It's gone.
It's left the station, hasn't it? So
Yep.
at this point, I mean, look, Tomlin said he thinks that Benny Snell Jr. and Deontay Johnson will play, or the hope is to let those guys play Thursday night against the Panthers. We hope that's the case. Even if that happens, man, and assuming they do keep the 6 wide receivers, like I'm sure both of us probably still think is a good chance of happening, there's a good chance that Deontay Johnson is going to be inactive week 1.
Yeah, that's really the way it's looking like right now. Just a lack of reps, not having a defined role. Other guys playing well. Switzer being the return guy. It'd be Deontay or Eli, and I can't see, assuming Eli makes it, I can't see Deontay getting that hat immediately over Eli Rogers.
And, last night I wondered if we'd see a little bit different in this as far as maybe some of the usage or maybe a couple of these guys in Johnny Holton and Deontay Spencer maybe making a few plays to make you kind of rethink a few things. But I got to be honest with you, Alex. They threw Switzer out there the first several returns or what have you. He was out there with the with the initial offense and all. And Eli Rogers throwing a nice block on that power run by James Conner. I have absolutely still no reason. I'm looking for every reason possible to try to make one of these changes with A, Ryan Switzer, or B, Eli Rogers. We've talked about it all off season, but it's looking more and more like all that talk was just killing time, man, because I have no reason to pull either one of those two off my 53-man roster with one preseason game to go.
I mean, I think both guys, Spencer and Holton, have interesting traits and resumes and a case to make. I mean, Spencer, we've seen flashes in the return game. Holton is a different type of receiver that can offer you something that really no other receiver on this roster can, at least guys competing for a 53-man roster spot. But you're right. These guys had to do something compelling to get a roster spot, something that just blew the team away and said, we got to keep this guy, the way that maybe a Stephon Logan did a decade ago, the way that some other guys in the past have done. And I don't think either guy, Holton or Spencer, have done anything compelling enough to state that case to get the spot over guys like Switzer and Eli, more known commodities, more proven players, more veteran guys that have been inside of stadiums before. So for me, needle hasn't moved.
Yeah, and look, has Switzer and Eli lit it up? No, but they don't. I mean, they're the ones. They're the incumbents.
Yeah, they don't. They didn't have to.
They're as you say, the known commodity here, and Holton, his special teams ability is not going to be enough, I don't think. Especially because I think guys like Lane and Burns have done a nice job on those gunner positions. If you were obviously insufficient maybe in those areas, then maybe you can make a little bit stronger play for Holton. I think, but even so, who would you be keeping them over at this point? Well, the fact that they threw Switzer out there right away and kind of what you would perceive as a dress rehearsal game, and it just boils down to I don't have enough to reason to make a change, and Lord knows I've been looking for it all throughout the preseason.
And now, to be fair, we've seen dress rehearsal guys not make the team.
Sure.
Think about a couple years ago, Niall Davis, Sammy Coates, where your kick returners all preseason long, and both were gone by the end. But who's going to take that place? Has anyone done anything compelling enough to earn a spot? Probably not. And you can still keep Johnny Holt in the practice squad, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I do. I think so as well too. And I think Spencer, you just let him go back to the CFL, right?
Yeah. Talent there. It's just he could still do it. I mean, Nick did it, but he's got to have like literally a return touchdown in this finale to even have a chance.
And then who does he kick off?
It'd be Switzer, and again, I think that is like I said before. I think it'd be Spencer. It was Spencer fighting Switzer and Holton fighting Eli, and I don't think either of them have done enough.
The wide receiver play on it, Juju, obviously we talked about him. Washington having a great preseason there.
Is there any concern that Washington didn't get a ton of work with the starters and hasn't done a whole lot with Ben specifically this preseason?
Yeah, I suppose you could go that route. But, I mean, how much, there are only so many snaps to go around, and those guys do work in practice, right?
Sure.
So I'm not overly concerned about it. I mean,
okay.
You're gonna obviously have him in there in 3 and 4 wide receiver sets and go from there. So I'm not overly worried about it. No. My worry is just getting him to carry over what we've seen for two preseasons now in a row into the regular season. That's all. That's the only thing I have concern about, and him not making those mistakes like we saw in that interception.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think, they play Juju on the outside a lot this game. Eli Switzer, I think Switzer started actually in the slot over Eli. And I think they just want to get Juju more work on the outside. His development as an outside receiver, ability to create separation, you talk about the touchdown he had, the post route that he ran, the nuances he showed, getting on the corner's toes, stemming outside, then cutting across his face to win on that post route. He's really shown a lot of progression in terms of creating space as an outside receiver compared to, say, his rookie year. I thought the back half of last year when he had to play on the outside more when Washington struggled and couldn't even get a hat some weeks, he's really taken a big step forward. So I think that's been the biggest thing with Juju. Not that we worry about Juju a whole lot, but the progression I've seen with him is his success as an outside Z receiver, I think, is really taking a big step forward.
And that's one of the things he said this past week, and one of the things that he tried to work on during the offseason. More so for myself, being able to catch the deep balls down the field. Those go balls, like those free balls that they send down the field where, I got to go make those plays. And that's what I focused on a lot, catching them over the shoulder and being able to be a threat on the outside. And I kind of researched these stats. I already had them pulled aside, but it gave me a perfect reason to throw him in a post here of Juju's 169 career regular season receptions to date. Only 15 in total of them were caught 20 or more yards down the field. Now, those 15, by the way, came on just 35 total deep pass attempts in his direction. So obviously he hasn't had. You can't catch deep what's not thrown to you deep, right? So only 35 deep pass attempts in his direction, and when you look at the percentage, 15 of the 35 is a nice percentage on a deep ball, 20 yards or more. So it's just the fact that he hasn't, I think, been put in a situation to do that. Now, Juju has also registered just 27 receptions via passes in which the football traveled more than 15 yards in the air past the line of scrimmage so far during his career. It is worth pointing that out. However, Juju enters his third season in the NFL with a 55.1% catch rate on those 49 deep targets of more than 15 yards. And once again, you give me a quarterback or a wide receiver connecting at 55.1% on deep passes, 16 or more yards down the field, I'm signing up for it, brother, in a heartbeat. So it's not that he's been bad at this. It's just that he hasn't, obviously playing in the slot quite a bit. He hasn't been tasked with targeted that. So it is good to see him tackle that, if you will, during the preseason here, and especially with kind of what you pointed out there on that on that route last night against the Titans, against zero coverage and stemming that thing to the outside and then working back in towards the post and really kind of catching that one over the shoulder, if you will.
Yep, rest of the receivers, pretty nondescript. Johnny Holton, 2 deep balls, couldn't stay in bounds for either of them, called for OPI on the second one. Brandon Riley.
I thought that was a Bobo call, but
he still wasn't in bounds either way, I don't think.
Right. But regardless.
If you're gonna push off, catch the ball in bounds, at the very least, or whatever.
Get more gooder at it.
Seriously, right. And then, Trey Griffey had 1 catch. Brandon Riley showed up with a big 30-yard play on a back shoulder. That was a free play, but I think, again, pretty much status quo with the receivers across the board.
All right, running backs were already kind of hit on that. But James, what did you need to see any more? After that long run on that power run to the right side, get him out of there.
Yep.
And great blocking on that. Boy, the wall that they set up and the whole thing, emphasis on plays like that was exactly what you want to get. You want to get that thing kind of walled off where it goes mano a mano. If you will, and that's you're betting on your guy making the guy miss, and that's exactly what James Conner did. I didn't like the early Jalen Samuels on that first handoff. What the hell happened there? That thing was supposed to go to the right, I think, right?
It got blown up. That was a great play by Samuels. That was awesome. It got blown up. He couldn't go to the right anymore. He made something out of nothing. I thought he showed more explosive ability and acceleration to that. That would have been a 4-yard loss last year. That was a great play by him.
I kind of viewed him just not getting the ball. I had him going the wrong direction at the snap.
I'll have to look at it again. I mean, it was supposed to go to the right for sure, Fallen Foster, and I think that someone shot through where the caster was at. It wasn't a down block that was executed properly. I haven't rewatched it yet, but I don't know. I felt like at least he made something out of it. I mean, the dude, it was supposed to be a loss. He turned into, a 7 or 8 yard gain.
Right. I mean, it was a positive play. It just looked like that. It looked like there was a blow up. I mean, it was blown in the fact that I thought Samuels took the handoff on the wrong side. But
okay, maybe I can pull it up here really quickly. I have the recap up. What was this? When that happened? The first.
That was like Rudolph's first or second snap. About 20. What, it was about the fourth possession, wasn't it?
All right, okay, yeah, I think I'm pulling it up now. Yeah, let me hit the replay because I know they showed one. Yeah, Vance got beat. I don't know if you have it pulled up right now. Vance,
I don't have it pulled up, no.
Can do a NFL matchup kind of thing here. Talking to the tape right now. Yeah, Vance got beat down. He couldn't steal this guy. It was blown up. Yeah, there was no way that was going to go to the right. So that was a really good play by Samuels.
Okay, I kind of took it as the him going the wrong direction snap.
Okay. Well, maybe we can do a film room or something on it. But yeah, I was happy with the group of the running backs overall. Connor ran great, and not only did Connor just have a productive day, but he dominated the snap count with the first team offense. Like, he was just the guy. And it may be a little less of that in the regular season, but for anyone concerned about, is James Conner, they're going to be stuck in this giant timeshare and Connor's not going to get to play and blah, blah, blah. No, Connor's still going to be very much the dude the way that he was before getting hurt last year. I mean, Samuels will have a role. They'll rotate guys in. They want to keep Connor fresh, let him go to the finish line. But Connor's going to have another great season.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a guy that, I think over a complete season, and we talked about this several weeks ago, and really when that was kind of the buzz there, I still think he hits the 275, 285, whatever total touches or whatnot. It'll be spread out. A little bit more. I mean, I think you do make the concerted effort to occasionally get Jalen Samuels on the field, and assuming Benny Snell, that's another conversation we'll probably have here in a minute here, assuming he does make the 53, and you get him going in some sort of role, maybe a short yardage role to help kind of take some wear and tear off of Connor. But, I mean, I guess if I was talking from fantasy purposes right now, and I got a couple leagues that I'm picking in this 12 hole as well too, I'm licking my lips at the prospects of being able to get James Conner there at the 12 or the turn, top of the second round, because of the fact that I'm confident he's going to have at least 275, 285 touches. Maybe he has a little bit even more than that. I think he's going to be a guy that they use out of the backfield as a pass catcher once again. And boy, if only they could run that power more. I mean, he definitely runs good to the edges there. I think once again he's going to be a guy that has, 9 to 12 explosive runs of 20 yards or more, which is something that we really didn't see Le'Veon Bell do during his time in Pittsburgh. So I'm not worried one bit about this running back rotation as we sit here right now. Just hope everybody stays healthy. And I guess the biggest aspect is Benny Snell missed that game, last night against the Titans there. I mean, is this guy, his roster spot safe, barring injury, right?
That's how I felt about it. I know there's been some rumblings. I mean, I've ever since you talked about it, I felt more and more like there was a chance they could keep 4 running backs and keep a guy like Trey Edmonds to be that number 3 on game day, Snell to be inactive, just because I think Edmonds is going to offer you more as a pass protector and probably better, I would say. Snell's done well in special teams, but I think Edmonds is still just the better guy overall on that unit. So I'm open to the idea of keeping 4. I still can't see Snell getting cut. I mean, what has he done so wrong to get cut?
Yeah, just not, missing a game, really. I mean, obviously not great in that opener, taking a run to that left side that maybe he should have broken. Obviously has had success on short yardage. I mean, you can only... your successful play is a successful play. I mean, if you need 1 yard and you get 1 yard, it's hard to criticize a guy in that situation, right? And he has shown up some on special teams, and that's been a positive for him as well too. And the whole, the Edmonds thing is going to be interesting because I mean, you can make a play for him on special teams, but at the flip side, where are you stealing that extra roster? Where are you stealing that extra roster spot from? And B, it would automatically mean that Benny Snell's inactive if you kept 4 running backs and Roosevelt next, which you obviously are going to keep Roosevelt next. Yep. So it would automatically make Benny Snell inactive if you did do that. And then where's the extra roster spot coming from?
I have an idea where it would come from. I don't want to spoil it because I might do this for my roster prediction a little bit later in the week.
You're sending Fred Johnson to the practice squad.
You know me too well, Dave. You caught me. You pulled your Scooby-Doo with the mask off of me, Dave, and it was.
I would have got you would have got away for you. How's it go? I would have got away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids.
Right. Yeah,
I think that's it, right? I mean,
yeah, it'd be Fred Johnson. I'd carry 8 offensive linemen, and you can get Johnson to the practice squad. Like, I like him. The versatility's nice. There's upside there, but a lot of these guys took their first year on the practice squad. Bill Noy was on the practice squad his first year, wasn't he? When he first came over, way back when.
Right. But he was remembered that he had been cut 2 weeks earlier.
Sure. I know. I'm just making the broader point. Like Chris Hubbard spent his first year on the practice squad.
Right.
Matt Fowler was on the practice squad. So we've seen a lot of these guys work their way up the ladder where they turn out to be good players, versatile key players, but a lot of them did begin their careers on the Steelers practice squad. So I just want to say, like, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Fred Johnson was there. You call him up as an injury. You're keeping 10 overall. You're keeping 8 on the 53, 2 on the practice squad. So that's a place where I think you're not losing anything because he would have been inactive anyway. Now Benny Snell becomes inactive instead, takes that spot on the Sunday inactive list, and I think that's the way you can make it work.
And that's really the only way you can make it work.
Yeah.
To be quite honest,
you're not cutting Chick. Like, I know we'll get into that in a second. Like, none of that's not crazy. You're not cutting Burns. That's if you want to remove a roster spot, the best place to do it is carry 8 offensive linemen.
So I wasn't far off with switching my last prediction around, and I mean, make no mistake about it. I mean, too, we'll have to see what Benny Snell's health is. And does Edmonds give you that much more of a special teams guy than Snell? I mean, he's more reliable. Obviously, he's durable. Obviously, you're not going to go into the game thinking you're going to get Trey Edmonds carries. Sure. But if he does have experience at it, so God forbid you get yourself in that situation. Right. And we know this team is at least going to dress 3 healthy running backs on a game day. And as you stated, I mean, or as we stated here, the only way that happens is if Benny Snell is inactive, and then that's because you have an open inactive spot because Fred Johnson's not on it.
Right, and I just think there's a little more trust in Edmonds in pass protection, out of the backfield, no huddle stuff, overall conditioning, knowledge of the offense. I think Snell's been impressive. I know the average looks crappy at 2.1 yards per carry with a lot of short yardage stuff, a lot of poorly blocked plays. He's got to lose some weight for next year, but I just think there might be a little bit of level of separation between Edmonds and Snell. I think Snell's done well. He's embraced the special teams aspect of it. He's really handled that well, at least from what I can tell. But I could see that being a compelling reason because I think on game day to start, Edmonds over Snell makes a little more sense.
Boy, there's going to be some hollering fans.
Over what? Snell?
If they keep 4 and they don't keep you-know-who and you-know-what, as part of the 53. If they keep 4 running backs, we'll talk about it. I guess we got to move on because tight ends. Look, I mean, it's McDonald, it's Grimble. We'll see if they go out and get somebody for Gentry, and But I mean, as of right now, Gentry's going to be on this 53, barring something like that happening. I mean, is Gentry good enough, too, that you can dress and put on? I mean, a little bit special teams deficient there,
Yeah, but they don't ask the tight ends to do a whole lot. Kick return game, tight end, wing, maybe for field goal team. Right. That's about it. So there's not a whole lot that you have to do there. Yeah, it's going to be Gentry if it is 53. It could be an external source of an article for Tuesday with one trade scenario that I'm not saying I would do, but if you want to talk about realistic trade scenarios, this is one where you bring in a tight end and then I'll have a waiver wire, trade possibility list of a couple other tight ends too on there. But did Scotty play last night? I don't think he did.
No, he did not. No, he did not.
Poor guy, man. I mean, he was really looking good. He was really progressing, and then, that hamstring injury, man, those things can be so tricky. So unfortunate for him.
Offensive line, I mean, no sense talking about starters there. The second team offensive line, Banner, Derwin Gray, B.J. Finney, Fred Johnson, Chukwuma Okorafor, and Finney, I think, was only in there for like 6-8 snaps or something like that, and he was out of there and all. So really not a lot to really report in that area. I guess we should hit real quick on the injuries coming out of last night's game. Sean Davis, went down with what's being described as an ankle injury. The way he kind of left and went to the locker room, though, and him saying after the game that he'll be ready to go by week 1 lessens my concern there. They pulled Bud Dupree out of the game. I think after about 10, 11, 12 snaps, something like that, because of a thumb injury there. He was kind of in fact, you see him on the sideline when Sean Davis is coming off, and he did not have that right hand wrapped at the time or whatnot. So I'm going to guess, and that's all it is a guess, that Bud Dupree will be fine two more weeks, from now come week 1 opener. And I know Isaiah Buggs kind of got banged up or whatnot during the game. Haven't heard anything concrete on him either, so we'll have to make sure that he goes against the Panthers Thursday night. As far as guys that did not play, we already talked about Christian Scotland Williamson didn't go. Anthony Chickalo did not go with the chest. Deontay Johnson, Benny Snell Jr. did not go because of injuries. Joe Hayden did not go. Brian Allen.
Brian Allen.
Brian Allen did not go. I found that surprising. I don't know what might be ailing him. Ola obviously didn't go. And I think that's it, right?
I think that's list. Yeah, Brian Allen. He's only played one game this preseason. I would not even carry him on the practice squad. I'm just moving on.
Yeah, I got him on my practice squad, but I'm not confident. I wouldn't bet my house on it.
Yeah, Trayvon Mathis actually I thought did well in the run game.
That might be the guy that ends up getting a spot.
It could be one of those things where he gets a spot for a day, then they bring somebody they got cut somewhere else, put him on the practice squad the way they did with like Trey Edmonds last year, I think it was. So that might be a floaty position at cornerback.
All right, defensive side of the ball. What can you say about the defensive line, man? Get him out of there. Look, it was good to see Cameron Hayward get laddered up quite a bit. To him and Tuitt, a great stunt early on that sack safety there. Javon Hargrave has nothing to prove to anybody at this point. Really, Daniel McCullers doesn't either. The worst of the ones that are probably going to be kept, of the 6 are going to be kept, probably Isaiah Buggs didn't look like he had as good a game as maybe as he's had, previously there. So, Henry Mondo looks like he's ticketed for the practice squad. Tyson Alulu, I think, got about 15 to 18 snaps burn last night there. So really, not a lot to talk about defensive line other than seeing some guys hustle and like you would expect them to do.
Yeah, they just played super well. It's not unexpected when you talk about Tuitt, though I'm happy Tuitt getting the finish to play, 2 sacks, Hayward doing his thing. You mentioned the effort. I posted that clip, 3rd and 17, a screen, preseason game on the road, doesn't mean anything. Hayward still chases after it, makes
in
the
the rain.
Yeah, it's just, that's a standard that he sets. That's what everyone looks to. And people ask me, how did Javon Hargrave get better at running to the football? Why do these guys work so hard? It's because when you see Cam Hayward do it in the preseason game where it doesn't matter, then you got to do it too. So it's a lead by example mentality, and you just appreciate Hayward for that because this dude plays every game like it's a Super Bowl.
Outside linebacker, boy, who's that wearing number 48?
It's a new and improved Bud Dupree. If this might be the year. I know we say that every year, but the power, I'm feeling power with Bud Dupree, and that's been the biggest issue. Can you convert speed to power? He's never done it in his career. I saw it last night. If he stays healthy, again, I think health is the real key here for Bud. I think he's had some injuries that have sapped him of some of that power, but it was on display last night.
It certainly was, and rare that you get to see the Bud Dupree long arm.
Yeah. I'm not sure I've ever seen it before. And then to create power off of that, I know it wasn't against Taylor Lewan, but it's still against the NFL tackle and Dennis Kelly, and constrict the pocket. He doesn't get the sack, but he keeps Tannehill in the pocket until it cleans it up. That's the stuff where you see Dupree, the technique coming together and the health coming together, and to show that power. He's a big dude with muscled up. The guy looks good, and he's finally showing signs of putting it all together. He's got to do it in the regular season, of course. We'll see, but really encouraged by not only his whole preseason, but especially last night.
Alex, what does his power rating say?
It's over 9,000. You don't even watch Dragon Ball. It's the only Dragon Ball reference you know. I know if I asked you about like Piccolo or anyone at the Tournament of Power right now, you would have no idea what I'm talking about.
You can thank the internet memes for that.
What's your one trick pony over there, Dave?
Yeah,
the Mike Wallace of Dragon Ball Z references. But yeah,
that's a good one, right? Mike Tallman always said you're gonna have a one trick, make it a good one, right?
Yeah, you got a good one for sure. But yeah, with Dupree, I mean, I'm excited. I mean, we'll have to see. Again, I don't want to get too over the top about it. He's got to stay healthy. It's always been fleeting for him, but. I know we criticized him a good bit, but when he's playing well, we'll tell you he's playing well, and dude's playing well.
Look, you got to call the spade, right? I mean,
yep.
He talks about how he likes to experiment during preseason. Well, how about start experimenting during the regular season instead of running up the edge? But look, we have seen power from him now, and we have seen some counter. Now, granted, not going against the best tackle in the world. In fact, boy, Tennessee's going to be a mess, I think, over there on the left side. At the start of the regular season here, but because of the Taylor Lewan, but that's not the Steelers' problem. You only go up against the guy that you go up against, right? It's not your fault that you have to blow him out of the water there. But that certainly was great to see. Some other guy they had out there, number 51, I think, Tupac.
You're just trying to get the hate mail tonight, aren't you, Dave?
Tupac Skipor or something. That guy looked pretty good.
Yeah, the question is, what do you do with Tuzar Skipper? Everyone wants him on the 53, and I respect that, but how do you get him on there? And I know you're going to go into the big thing about the lack of special teams value, which I agree with wholeheartedly. I mean, let's just be clear. You're not cutting Chick for Tuzar Skipper. Like, that's just not a conversation starter that I'm going to have.
Better hope for an injury, and that's the wrong thing to do,
The only way I see it is if Ola really does start the year in IR to return, and they do this thing where I know he has to make the 53, so they cut Skipper initially, they put Ola on IR to return, then they bring Skipper back. Like, that's really the only way I can see it right now.
That would be the only way, or if something happens, if there's more to this Chickalo chest injury that we don't know, which I don't think there is. The biggest red flag in all this, and really it kind of gives you a window into maybe even into the thoughts on the injuries right now to Ola and Chickalo, is the fact that, look, even I thought last night that we would see more Tuzar Skipper on special teams. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought. Man, you got to get that guy out there for 5 snaps, at least let him chase down a couple of kickoffs or whatnot. I was almost positive that was going to happen. You know how many he played?
How many?
None.
Wow.
So he's played 3 special team snaps in 3 games, and I think those first 3 preseason those first 3 special team snaps came in the opener, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to double check. So 3 special team snaps out of all the snaps that he's played in 3 preseason games, and none in the 3rd preseason game where you probably got because of Ola and Chickalo being out, and you can't even get on special teams at that point. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, we're having fun with this, folks, okay, just from the sheer fact that we see the hollering and the yelling. We watch the tape, too. We know Tuzar Skipper has had a good preseason as a pass rusher. Heck, even as kind of a run defender on the outside. That number 88 probably had dreams about Tuzar Skipper.
What is it with Steelers outside linebackers dominating Titans? Remember Ola last year had that shit on that? That tight end out of the club, like something about it. Just these guys get after it.
Boy, he told that boy to sit down, and he sat. More than once, and he sat that right tackle down 1 or 2 times. I mean, look, folks, we get it. He has been impressive going against the guys that he's been asked to go against during the preseason. You're not going to get an argument out of Alex and I over that. The thing is, and Alex and I preach this all the time, it's just what we think is going to happen here, and it's the fact that the Steelers, like most teams, value special teams play more so than they do because, look, the plan is not to have Tuzar Skipper having to play any defensive snaps for you, no matter how good you think he is right now. So, and we heard, before Ola got injured, what was the thing that Keith Butler kept saying about Ola?
Yep. What can he do on special teams?
Right. So if it applies to him, it applies to it applies to Tuzar Skipper and Anthony Chicklow and whoever else. I mean, Tyler Matakevich. I mean, any backup linebacker that applies to. Okay, and it's quite telling that Tuzar Skipper has 3 special team snaps. Okay. Don't yell at us. Don't get mad at us. We're just trying to tell you the way it is with this thing. And if you're worried about Tuzar Skipper being claimed off waivers, why? I mean, if he, if he doesn't offer a team anything in the way of special teams, then they're claiming him just to sit on the inactive list.
Yeah, it's just, not only has he not played there, the skill set really isn't there. He's not a great athlete. He doesn't do well in space. He may have to lose some weight next year the way Ola did for this year. Like, I like Tuzar. I've had him on my practice squad for several editions now. It's just, what are you going to do with him if you put him on the 53? He's not playing on defense. You have too many linebackers. You're going to have, basically if you want Tuzar to make it, and assuming Ola doesn't go to IR to return, then you're cutting Gilbert III. And so you have to tell me that you want to cut Gilbert III over Tuzar Skipper.
Right. And Gilbert III played 13. I got him mixed up when I was going through the tape initially, man. I was watching. I purposely started pulling up all the special teams, all the punt and kickoff coverages, because I was like, okay, I want to see how much Tuzar played, and I brain farted there, seeing 54 and thinking Tuzar Skipper. And I'm thinking, my God, he played a lot of he played a lot of damn snaps, and I got about half. Obviously I was getting tired. It's about 1 a.m. in the morning, and then that's when it hit me. It was like, oh, I got their numbers crossed there, and it ended up being Ulysses Gilbert the third that had been playing all that time. I mean, right from the get-go in the game, even the free kick after the safety. So. I'll throw this to you now. What do you make of Ulysses Gilbert playing? Now, obviously, there was the hole there because of Anthony Chicklow being out, and obviously Ola being out as well too. So you had some snaps to fill, but I think it speaks volumes that Gilbert got those snaps and Tuzar didn't, even though one plays inside, one plays outside.
Right. I mean, I try not to overreact to them too much, because I'm sure you can find examples of guys that have played heavily in this game, won special teams, played heavily overall in the preseason there, and still not made it. But yeah, I mean, Gilbert III is clearly a better special teams player. He's a lot better athlete. He's more, he's more functional in space than Tuzar Skipper is. So like, there's no debate about that. Who's your better special teams player? It's UG3 all day.
And boy, he can get down there too.
Yeah, I mean, the dude runs sub 4.5. I mean, Skipper does not.
All right, inside linebacker, boy, it looked like it was going to be another 10 tackle night for Devin Bush right out of the chute. The first one I think got called back for a penalty, and then look, they there was probably no reason to play him any longer than what they played him last night. I get it. I think they're comfortable with him right now. I tell you what, though, out of Ulysses Gilbert, though, a couple of plays that he made last night, particular in that sideline to sideline, and in him and Bush alone, Bush sprinting out to the edge. I think it was even on the safety, I want to say, him able to get from the middle, from the middle of the field out to get the running back trying to leak out to the far flat over there was just like a bullet, and things like that. I thought we saw a couple of times too, Ulysses Gilbert, some of that sideline to sideline stuff where, the whole after the draft and us talking, I said, man, I didn't see some of the stuff other people were seeing in the Akron tape on Gilbert. I've seen it now. So
zone buster. You want to try to run outside zone? Good luck against him.
Yeah, I get it now with him. I see it. I just, like I said, I had the wrong selection of 3 games, that I pulled on him. But I get it with him now. And here's the thing. and we'll get into my 53-man roster here in a minute, I'm sure. But even if you keep him, which I have him back on there again after my week experiment. How do you keep him off the inactive list though?
Well, he'll be active for week 1 because Ola will be down in all likelihood. From there, yeah, I get it, but one injury is all it would take. To almost not even just a linebacker, maybe somewhere else where you just, you have UG3 up because a corner's down or a defensive lineman's down or a receiver's down.
All right, well, okay. With that, let's finish out the defense real quick here.
Mm-hmm.
Cornerbacks, I say, Cam Kelly, that guy helped us, not that he needed to, I don't guess, but I thought he helped us cause even more. Against the Titans. Boy, on the play that Sean, I put a GIF of that up on Twitter just before we got on the podcast. Not sure if you saw it, but on the play that Sean Davis was injured on, Kelly comes from all the way over the field to help out with that run tackle. Now, obviously, it still ends up in the first down there, but he covered a lot of ground and was in on that, filling that gap, if you will, there on that play there. I thought. I think he forced a fumble in that game as well too.
Yep.
I thought he was wasn't he part of a 3 safety package early in the game?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been part of the dime. He's been part of even big nickel. So it's not a question of if Cam Kelly's gonna play or if he's gonna be a backup. It's a question of or make the team or play. It's a question of exactly how much he'll play. But this dude's gonna have a role in the defense.
Boy, he looks faster on the field than he does. He looks faster point A to point B, I'll tell you that, than what I thought he was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think he's a tremendous athlete, but he takes really good angles. He's a good processor. He covers some ground because of the angles that he takes.
Trey Edmonds, I thought really Terrell Edmonds is really coming into his own as a safety back there now. It looks a lot more comfortable, playing a lot more faster than he was. I'm looking at my practice squad right now and got Trey Edmonds on and say Trey instead of Terrell. He looked a lot more comfortable back there. That break up early in the game over the middle just reads that and powers forward and powers right through the breakup on that. Really like his play in the preseason so far. I don't think we saw much of Jordan Dangerfield. Marcus Allen got a lot of burn, but I don't know if we should read too much into that last night.
I don't know. I mean, he's been playing well. He had a forced fumble. I know they ruled it down or didn't have a clear recovery or whatever the issue was. But this dude's that's back-to-back weeks for what I view the tape. 2 forced fumbles for him. And he played over Jordan Dangerfield. I don't know if Dangerfield came in the game really at all. Maybe he came in late. He worked in time a little bit. So maybe that battle still might be open. Allen's making the right push at the right time, though. I'll tell you that much. Cornerback's a little quieter. Nelson, I thought, did okay. Burns didn't have his best game, but I still think it's been good overall. Lane got beat across the middle a little bit, slipped, and had trouble with his footing. Not a whole lot with the cornerback group there. Cam Sutton, it was weird. When they go in their dime package, they're replacing Sutton with Mike Hilton. And I don't know what that means or how much to read into that, but they were doing it. Like Cam Kelly was the 6DB, but then also Cam Sutton came in to replace Mike Hilton.
Yeah, and Cam Sutton didn't play too many snaps either.
He played a decent amount.
Yeah, he played like 20, I think. Denny and I just wrote that up this morning. Mike Hilton was the one that didn't play a lot. I think
he played like
6 or 8 snaps or something along those lines there. What did Cam Sutton play?
He played a lot in the slot. They don't have a whole lot of slot on. He probably played 25, 30 snaps.
20.
20. Okay. Yeah, I mean, he was getting work in the base nickel, or the base nickel, the regular nickel defense with the backups, but then also getting some slot work in dime packages, too, on 3rd and long. So maybe that means they like Sutton a little more in coverage, and they have Hilton on the earlier downs to stuff the run and blitz.
Over the course of this preseason, feel a little bit better about the secondary?
Yeah, I just feel better about the defense in general. The speed, the flexibility, the way they're getting after the football, the depth that, even safety looks better now with the emergence of Cam Kelly, Cam Sutton playing well. I mean, Burns has always been, will it translate? We haven't seen it happen yet. But yeah, I mean, plays that Devin Bush has made, how couldn't you feel better about the way this defense is? It'll have to translate, obviously, but I think the pieces and the talent and the philosophy is there for this team to take a step forward defensively.
Definitely can see the speed. Can see the speed. You can see the health. I don't know if that, with that front, man, we talked about, Bud and TJ and, the way that the other front three, Yeah, I mean, if this unit can stay healthy, man, the only thing, look, they have forced like what, 6 fumbles now?
It's like 7, I think.
6 or 7 fumbles.
Yeah.
The only thing is no interceptions. They're one of two teams, with the Philadelphia Eagles being the other one, not to record a preseason interception. So if there's any kind of, look, I mean, turnover's a turnover, right? And say what you will, that safety was a turnover last night as well too. You get the turnovers however you want, but man, I don't remember. I mean, we haven't been talking about any dropped interceptions, have we, or no?
I don't think so. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, that they're not in position to make the interception, or they're just not, dropping them. Like, I don't know what's preferable in that situation.
Yeah, we'll see what the third stringers get in this preseason finale. But oh boy, I'd like to see. Maybe they're just saving them for the regular season, as one of my Twitter followers says there. But that's probably the only drawback there. I mean, look, they're stripping the ball out in the sacks and knocking the ball out after completions and all like that. So that's good there. Okay, yeah. Anything else to add, top to bottom, about what we saw position group by position group?
No, I'm just happy with the work from the starters. Again, everyone coming out relatively healthy. I don't think the Dupree Davis injuries are major, and they've really avoided any major injuries throughout the entire camp preseason, and I can kind of safely say that now, because obviously you won't see the starters or anyone of critical importance against the Carolina Panthers this Thursday. So I'm happy with the group overall. The progression of some of these young guys have been good. So, Dave, I want to get into your 53-man roster prediction here. But before we do that, I do want to talk about our friends over at MyBookie. Talk about, with fantasy football season coming up. I know I just had my fantasy league last night, actually, during the Steelers game. It's a league I've been in for, I think, 11 years now, or 20-team league. It's been a lot of fun. So there's a lot to talk about there. But tell us about our friends over at MyBookie.
Speaking of which, I got a league that's been around for 30 years. Drafting this next weekend as well too. So that, and got another couple high dollar ones coming up this weekend.
So you've been in the league longer than I've been alive for.
I've been playing fantasy football longer than you've been alive. Yes, I am old. I am that old.
You are that old.
I'll tell you stories about how we did not burn our feet when the earth was cooling sometime. Alex, it's a new season, brother. Antonio Brown is on the Oakland Raiders. Le'Veon Bell is with the New York Jets, and Odell Beckham Jr. is in Cleveland with the Browns. The one thing that hasn't changed, where I'm putting my money down on all the games. MyBookie.ag is the place to bet on football every weekend. MyBookie has better bonuses and more prop bets than any other sports book, period. This year they're hosting the first online handicapping super contest. First place is guaranteed to win at least $100,000, and it'll only cost $100 to enter that contest. All you got to do is pick 5 NFL games against the spread every week to climb the leaderboard and score your share of the huge cash prize pool. I would recommend a service to my listeners. It's been good to me, and that's definitely MyBookie.ag. That's why MyBookie.ag is always the right play. You bet, you win, they pay. MyBookie.ag has live in-game betting on every NFL game. They've got the most rewarding player perks in the business. And for you fantasy guys out there, you can even bet the over-under on how many fantasy points a player will score each game. Also, up to $1,000 they are offering first opponent bonus. Double your first deposit. If you go to MyBookie.ag and use promo code TERRIBLE, that's terrible, to activate the offer. If you visit online today, that's MyBookie, and don't forget to use the promo code TERRIBLE, you'll get up to $1,000 first deposit bonus. So enter TERRIBLE when creating your account to claim the bonus. You bet, you win, you get paid at MyBookie.ag. And once again, we're thankful to have them back as a football season sponsor on the Terrible Podcast.
All right, Dave, let's go through your 53-man roster. I know it's pretty similar, so you probably don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it, but you tell me kind of what were your biggest decisions and maybe anything you're still wrestling with.
Yeah, and look, I mean, this is basically my the 53-man roster that I turned in after the first preseason game.
Mhm.
I reverted back to that. The one that I turned in last week, obviously, I played around, so I wouldn't submit the same one. I had that little play where I took Ulysses Gilbert the third off and put Trey Edmonds in as the fourth running back for special teams. Well, I have now reverted back the other way on that. So, look. I have Roethlisberger, Rudolph, and Dobbs. I have Connor, Samuels, and Benny Snell Jr. I have Roosevelt, Nix. My 6 wide receivers, I told you I have no reason to change that. Juju, Dante, Moncrief, James Washington, Deontay Johnson, Eli Rogers, Ryan Switzer, Vance McDonald, Xavier Grimble, Zach Gentry. I'm open to doing something there with the third tight end. We'll have to kind of see how potentially maybe that plays out with the waiver wire and all like that. But I mean, that's where I am on that. And I just lost my place on this thing here.
Well, you got the offensive line next. Standard
Oh
9,
yeah. Standard 9. Look, I mean, I can see the argument that you're probably going to make in your 53 about putting Fred Johnson and only carry, put him on the practice squad, only carry 8 and possibly carry Trey Edmonds as a fourth running back in that situation. I just chose to go with the regular 9 that I've had for pretty much most of, I think all training camp and the preseason there. So that gives me 25 players on offense to 25 on defense. The 6 defensive line I'm keeping. Keeping McCullers and Isaiah Buggs as number 5 and number 6. The inside linebackers, I'm adding Ulysses Gilbert III back as number 5 on top of Vince, Mark Barron, Devin Bush, and Tyler Matakevich. Like it or not, folks, Matakevich is a special teams warrior, and that's why they're going to keep him. Oh, how nice was it to see Vince Williams running around last night?
Yeah, I'm really interested in the rotation at inside linebacker. I didn't get a great feel for it initially, but I'm going through my charting and just kind of seeing who was playing where. But yeah, I mean, all 3 healthy, all 3 can help you out. It's a good problem to have.
Absolutely it is. And outside linebackers, Bud, Watt, Chicolo, and Ola Adeni. Now, there's a good chance Ola might be inactive week 1. Maybe not. We'll have to see how that plays out. And folks, like it or not, Anthony Chicolo got that signing bonus, and they like him as a special teams player. So if he's healthy enough come these final cutdowns or whatnot, it's hard to imagine him not being on this 53 and being out there on special teams. And much to the chagrin of most probably listening, that means Tuzar Skipper I got going to the practice squad. The 6 cornerbacks, no changes there. Joe Hayden, Steven Nelson, Mike Hilton, Artie Burns, Justin Lane, Cameron Sutton. 4 safeties. Maybe the only question mark I have at this point when it comes to mine, Alex, is Jordan Dangerfield and Marcus Allen. I mean, could we see a swap there? I'll tell you this: Jordan Dangerfield, Tyler Matakevich, and Roosevelt Nix played 15 special team snaps last night.
Yeah, I mean, but doesn't Allen playing over Dangerfield tell you anything? Because that's a switch from before.
Maybe just want to give him a look. I don't know, man.
You're giving a look for a reason. I think he's earned the look.
But special teams, we'll see. I mean, that's like I said, that's the only. Every time I try to take Jordan Dangerfield off my roster, it's like he shows up.
Yeah,
and,
I get it.
It's hard with him, playing again another 15, which Allen, I think, played, 13 or so special team snaps. So it's not like he's special teams deficient, if you will. But man, I have a hard time of cutting Jordan Dangerfield just yet. So there's a question there. Maybe the specialist Boswell, Berry, Cameron candidate long snapper there. You know who the PUP and the injured reserve guys are. Practice squad: Derwin Gray, Johnny Holton, Patrick Morris, Christian Scotland Williamson, Henry Mondo, Brian Allen, Marcus Allen, Tuzar Skipper, Sutton Smith, Trey Edmonds, Tevin Jones. I'm only married to about half of those guys. Obviously, a guy like Brian Allen, not playing, not playing last night's. That can't be good. And with the younger kid in there getting snaps, maybe something to watch there. I think Skipper's a slam dunk for the practice squad. Not so much. I don't know. Sutton Smith, he got a lot of burn on special teams like we thought he would. Really didn't stick out very much at outside linebacker, I didn't think. Trey Edmonds, if Trey Edmonds is not on the 53, it's hard to envision him not being on the practice squad. Derwin Gray, you would think he's headed that direction there, and we'll have to see what happens with Fred Johnson. All right, now week 1 inactives based on, we always talk about what a good exercise it is to kind of work this thing backwards, right. Reverse engineer it. All right, you're going to have one, regardless of who the third quarterback is, he's going to be on the inactive list, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you're keeping two extra offensive linemen in Banner and Johnson, both those guys are going to be inactive. We've already come to the conclusion that Deontay Johnson is probably headed for the week 1 inactive list. Isaiah Buggs, assuming he's number 6, usually the 6th defensive lineman is on the inactive list, so he would be my 5th inactive. I'm going to guess right now that Adaney is inactive for week 1. Obviously, his health could change that. And, Alex, I have Ulysses Gilbert, even though I'm keeping him on my 53. I have him as a week 1 inactive. Who would you have active? Who on my inactive list would you have active? And I guess, at the expense of who?
I mean, I'm fine with that. I wouldn't argue with it too much. I guess the only one that you may move around is Justin Lane, and I know him being a gunner and all that. I don't know who else I would have in there. Artie would obviously be one. I think Cam Sutton could be another. So if there's one you want to argue with a little bit there, it may be saying, let's maybe get UG3 over Justin Lane, but you'd have to go a deep dive into special teams and seeing who has what role to figure that stuff out.
So that's where I'm at right now. Now, starting this thing off, I thought maybe a guy like Sutton Smith would be a guy that would be the quote-unquote special teams guy to win this race. But, if you don't run in a race, you can't win.
And I know it was his first game against Tennessee, and he played a lot, which was good. But, yeah, I felt like he didn't show up really at all, run up the arc a lot, didn't no impact on the run game. I mean, I'll have to go through it again, but I didn't really get a feel that he did anything super positively in his first game, other than just being out there, which is a good first step.
So once again, I know I'm going to aggravate the natives, if you will, but Tuzar Skipper, I have no worries about him clearing waivers.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine.
All right.
What else? I think that was basically all that we had.
You wanted to talk about luck, I think.
Yeah, well, I know we kind of addressed it, just talking about the quarterback position in general. I just, it just sucks for him. I think it's to me, I know I haven't watched college football for that long, but the best prospect that I've ever watched coming out of college whenever he came out of Stanford. And just a reminder that, while injuries can happen to anybody, it doesn't matter necessarily what you do. The Colts have had bad offensive lines for a long time. They've improved that now finally, but unfortunately probably too late for them. So just a reminder about the approach the Steelers have taken with building up that offensive line, because had they not invested so heavily and brought guys in like DeCastro and Pouncey and Marcus Gilbert, and then found gems like Villanueva and Foster and guys like that, Ben's not playing today. He would have retired 3 years ago had this offensive line not been transformed the way that it has. So just something to keep in mind, and a good reality check for how important it is to have that offensive line and how it just prolong some of these careers of the franchise quarterbacks.
Boy, you just hate. I listened to his entire. I don't know if you listened to it. I listened to his entire press conference the other night. You just had to feel for the guy, man. I mean, he goes through a lot of pain, and he swore the last time that he went through that, that kind of that uncertainty and all, that he wasn't going to go through it again. And, his ankle just isn't right now. He's going to have to get, and I think he's just tired of doing it. He has been beat up. Now, will he change his mind in a couple of years? I don't know. Andrew Luck's a smart guy. He can, like an architect or something like that. And, you just hate to see good quarterbacks not be able to play long periods of time. And had he had it makes you kind of wonder what might have been if had they had an offensive line to protect him there for a few of those years. And all I kept thinking about while listening to that press conference and thinking about him is, boy, did you watch that Tampa Bay Buccaneers preseason game the other night? Bruce Arians is going to get poor Jameis Winston's going to get the bejesus beat out of him this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so really, I think maybe the most important thing this front office has done in the last really 10 years is protect Ben. I mean, I think that's fair to say that's the best thing that they've done is prolong Ben's career, both with coaching changes and offensive line investment.
Right, and I was going to add on that the coaching changes because make no mistake about it. Say what you will about Todd Haley, it really changed. Look, Ben gets rid of that ball a lot quicker than he used to. I mean, yeah, we still see Ben extend the plays and all like that, but I mean, just look at his average snap to throw times over the last couple years. You know, he's the king of the dink and dunk, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, he can look. If there's one thing from last year that we talked about as well too, he's got to be a little bit more accurate throwing the football down the field. But we've seen him, obviously last night against in that preseason game, do what he did against or on that pass to Juju, if you will, and all. So I'm not worried about him. But I think it's a twofold effort there, kind of changing the way of him just wanting to drop back and throw explosive plays every play. And then, the offensive line, there's nothing wrong with that offensive line and keeping that thing built up either.
Absolutely. All right, Dave, let's close out the show with some reader emails.
Let's do it. From our buddy Lewis Grove, he writes in 53-man roster solution. I don't think any of us want to go into next year's draft needing an edge to replace Bud and Chiklos, so I say we use your 53 but cut Dobbs in place of Skipper and put Hodges on the practice squad. Third quarterback is always inactive, and let's face it, Dobbs is never going to be more than a backup. Thoughts? Here's the thing. We tried to do our 53-man rosters the way we think that the Steelers are going to do things. At least I do. I think you do the same thing, right? I mean,
yep.
Alex, so, for us to not carry three quarterbacks would go against everything that the Steelers do.
Right. I mean, I get the idea, but I think there's a lot of good quarterbacks, and I'm not really in favor of cutting the talent you have at quarterback, even Dobbs to some extent. So I get what you're saying, but it's not going to happen. And
I think Lewis might be in the category of thinking that Skipper's not going to survive on the practice squad. Look, I think he's going to be safe there. Once you get into that realm, what week is it? Week 6, week 7, when some teams are starting to get out of it and start looking at other teams' practice squads and all like that. I mean, if Skipper's still on your practice squad come that point, then yeah, I think he is going to be at risk, because that's when teams that are out of it start looking maybe that some guys that maybe can help them next year. And, why wouldn't you start there? But I mean, in the meantime, I don't know, maybe are you at fear of losing Skipper during the cutdown, Alex?
No, I mean, there's always a chance. I'm not going to pretend like there's a 0% chance of it happening. He's a talented player. But generally, the number of players that get claimed are so few. When you have someone that doesn't have a lot of immediate value the way that Skipper does, the lack of special teams ability really hurts him there. The odds are just very low, and that's the way you should approach it with all players. He's a good player. There's talent there. I'm excited to have him stay around on the team. But the odds of him getting claimed are very, very low.
Look, if he had the ability to get down there on special teams and help a team out immediately on special teams, right. Yeah. But I mean, is a team going to claim him just to bring him in and put him on the inactive list?
Yeah. I mean, the Steelers have done that with Kashad Lyons. I mean, but it's just the odds are just low.
Yeah, I mean, it's just low. Lewis, we get where you're coming from. Honestly, it's just if we're going to try to do our 53s the way we think the Steelers are going to do them, then we have to carry three quarterbacks. That's the long and short of it right there. Dr. Roger Coven writes in, "Hey, I enjoyed the 53-man roster predictions, but do they reflect your best guess as to what the Steelers organization do, or what be your own beliefs about who should be on the team?" I think we just answered that, Roger. We always, at least I have forever, when it comes to roster predictions, try to predict what the Steelers will do, because who cares what I want to do?
Yeah. Yep. Same with mock drafts. That's how we approach mock drafts, how you approach roster predictions.
Exactly. No, I mean, why would I throw something out there that's just mine and not have a good chance of A, it coming true, and B, I mean, to me, it's foolish to go that way than putting your own beliefs into it. So please note going forward that when it comes to mock drafts and 53-man roster predictions, both Alex and I are trying to predict what we think the Steelers would do, not what we would do. Jim Bendis writes in, Two questions. One, after the initial shock of hearing Luck retirement news, I thought that the good thing that the Steelers have Mason Rudolph to transition to if that ever happened to the Steelers. Question, what team out there are at risk of not having good backup in place if their established quarterback ever walks away suddenly other than New England? Two, do you ever listen to Tomlin's pregame interviews? I never heard any references from it, and there are some good aha moments in them. Look, I mean, if you listen to the pregame show every week, you'll listen to Bob Labriola talk to Mike Tomlin. You can read the same transcript on Steelers.com usually, right?
Yeah, I don't really read it in the preseason, but the regular season, every Sunday morning, I pull up Steelers.com and read that because that's honestly when Tomlin's at his most forthright.
Right, and most relaxed. So, yeah, there are maybe there have been some aha moments in there, I think, as Jim Bendis points out here. So, yeah, we just I think we referenced them here and there on the show, right, Alex?
I'm sure. I tweet about it sometimes. The reason why we don't probably talk about it too much is because it's Sunday morning, and then by the time you actually want to write an article about it, you've had a whole game to go through, and you forget about that stuff. It doesn't matter anymore. So sometimes there's stuff to file away, but usually the news cycle moves pretty quickly on that day.
All right, Jim's question about
who has good backup.
Yeah. Nobody gonna. The Nick Foles thing was something that you just don't see.
Yeah. Most teams are screwed if they don't have their franchise, their starting quarterback. So half the team doesn't even have a starting quarterback, let alone a backup.
And let's put look, I'm still bullish on Mason Rudolph, as maybe I was the day he was drafted, but I'm not ready to turn. I'm not ready for Ben to walk away just yet.
Yeah, me too.
Let's put it to you that way there. Moving forward here with Blake Literal. Hey, I've been wondering about the right tackle spot a lot. I know you talk about it, but just for clarity, how confident are you in Matt Filer? Also, how in the world is Rodgers or Switz going to beat out Spencer? Boy, Matt, that offensive line looked as smooth as, except for maybe that busted run play. Looked fine to me. I mean, Matt Filer's not going to go to the Pro Bowl, I don't think. But while he keeps the seat warm for hopefully Chukwuma Okorafor eventually, I'm fine with Matt Filer over there on the right side. I mean, you can't have all Pro Bowlers up there, right?
Yep, very confident in Filer, and then the other way around. Spencer's got to beat out Rodgers and Switzer, not the other way that you're framing it.
Yeah, he says, how in the world is Rodgers or Switz going to beat out Spencer? I wonder if he wrote that wrong because
well, for Spencer to do, he's got to at least have a return touchdown against Carolina, and even then it might not be enough, but that's his only chance.
Blake, I've been looking for ways, but I'm not just gonna swap them out just to swap them out. And I don't have any as bad as I've talked down about the production that Switzer gives you as a wide receiver from a depth of target point and all. I still can't cut him. So that him or Rodgers, that's where I am on that. JJ writes in, hey guys, JJ from Lexington, Kentucky. Dave always talks about the reading the tea leaves. Well, this is what I'm reading. Switzer's job doesn't look to be linked to Rodgers' roster spot. Have we seen Eli return a punt this preseason or last year? The tea leaves seem to be saying if Switzer loses his job, it will be to Spencer who had a tackle in the box score. So it looks like he's playing special teams, being a returner. Wait a minute, what? I think Spencer is closer to a roster spot than we might think after having another explosive play on offense. Your thoughts? Last thing, how many people download these podcasts? You would be surprised, JJ. We don't give that kind of data away, but it might surprise you.
What's the question here? Yeah. Oh, okay. It's about Spencer and Switzer. Yeah. I mean, I've said that Spencer and Switzer, like they compete with each other. Eli competes with Holton. I know they're different players, but Spencer is a 1-to-1 in terms of return guy kind of thing. So I don't think it's been enough so far from Spencer. And yeah, Eli hasn't returned the punt. I mean, he was hurt last year, so he couldn't really get the chance to do so until he came back in week 15, and it was established by then. But they know what Eli can probably do, and Switzer is obviously the favorite, so they're going to give him the work in the third game.
He's saying Spencer had a tackle in the box score. Wasn't it after a turnover or something?
Yeah, I think it was on the interception, right, that Dobbs threw.
Right. So I mean, we can't count that as a special teams. I mean,
I might be wrong. Let me look at who had the tackle on the Dobbs.
I thought it was Spencer had a offensive tackle.
Tackled Mike Jordan after the Dobbs interception in the fourth quarter.
All right, so score one that way. That's where that tackle came from there. Look, I've said it again. I've tried to find a way to get Rodgers. Anything's possible, but there's no way I'm going to change what I have right now when it comes to Switzer and Rodgers. And people are probably tired of me talking about it by now. Bryce writes in, "Hey guys, it's Bryce. With the final week of preseason here, we are oh so close to opening day. I can't wait. Here are my 3 hottest takes from the game. Number 1, the speed at linebacker is looking impressive. Guys are really flying around the football and being aggressive at the point of attack. I'm not going to disagree with you there. Number 2, the running backs look very comfortable in the run game. They're always getting downhill and taking what they can get. Jalen Samuels being able to make something out of nothing was a good instance to see last night. James Conner on that early power run to the right side. Definitely good to see there. Not going to get an argument from either one of us, I don't think there. Number 3, aside from Dobbs' mobility, which is really good to see, his passing skills are very Flacco-esque to me. Good deep ball, but wildly inconsistent in the mid-range. Look, Mike Tomlin put it best. You can't turn the ball over. I don't care how it is. You just can't turn the ball over in the red zone there. And some of those short range passes, he doesn't have it. And as Alex said earlier in the show, he can get rid of it deep sometimes, even though it seems to be underthrown. But he does have seemingly arm strength, and he has made some nice plays with his legs, both scrambling and avoiding the rush to get outside and deliver some passes. So there is that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, what I saw from Dobbs against the Titans is basically what I saw from him in camp. The up and down, the great play, bad play, great play, bad play, and that inconsistency just doesn't cut it as a quarterback.
Matt Palmer writes in, real curious to see what is going to happen come cut down day with Tuzar Skipper and Ulysses Gilbert III. Skipper looks special when it comes to getting after the quarterback, maybe doesn't have as much special teams value as Gilbert. My question is how valuable it is. He's got this, and he means business, Alex. So I'm going to let Matt means business here. So I'm going to let you answer this one. My question is how valuable is Anthony Chicklow? Is he that good of a special teamer? He sure doesn't get after the passer like Ola and Tuzar. Maybe if the Steelers move on from Chicklow, they can keep both of the good-looking younger players. Bonus question: if you had to pick one today, who's the bigger impact on the offense this year, Dante Moncrief or James Washington?
Second question: Moncrief will play more snaps, and Washington can be that vertical threat. He has potential to change more outcomes. With Chick, I get it. I mean, Chick has reached his ceiling as a pass rusher. I know he played through some injuries last year, but he's a rotational 3-sack season kind of dude. But the value of Chick, I know people won't like to hear this, but this is just facts. I mean, you can't tell me I'm wrong about this. Is that Chick is more trusted by the coaching staff. He's trusted to play both sides, to play off ball, to drop into coverage, be part of blitz schemes, contain all that kind of stuff. They trust him to do it, and to be fair, they should. I mean, he's a reliable guy that's going to do his job well, just not anything super special. And then he's a core 4-phase special teams guy. That's the reason why they gave him a 2-year contract and some decent money to keep him around. So they like that value, they like that trust, and he's going to be the number 3 to open the year. I mean, assuming that Ola can't go, he's going to be your top guy off the bench behind Watt and Dupree because of the trust and kind of consistency and steadiness that he's going to give you. So, I'm sorry, it's not going to be Skipper. It's not going to be Ola, assuming that he's down, and even if he's healthy, he probably won't be there because some of the time that he's missed and being a younger guy as opposed to Chick. So, I mean, Chick has that value, and it might not be evident to us watching it, but I think to the locker room, to the coaching staff, there is some value there.
What Alex said. Julio Salgado writes in, hi guys, hope you both are well. So with Andrew Luck retirement, I read that the Steelers may have the opportunity to trade one of the quarterbacks to the Colts. So two-part question. Is this even possibility? What players would y'all trade, Dobbs or Hodges, for a tight end or safety? Thank you, as always, for the great work and information provided. Look, I merely wrote about it because it on paper looks like maybe could be a fit. Do I think it ultimately happens? I think I made it clear that both scenarios that I put in there that I don't think will happen. However, I'd laid out enough, I think, info in the post, right, Alex, that none of us should be surprised, maybe. But all that said, look, I mean, if there's a quarterback that's on the Steelers that's going to be traded, it's going to be Dobbs.
Yeah, Hodges doesn't have any value. Maybe you could do Dobbs for a tight end thing. I know the Colts have a lot of tight ends. I haven't followed that battle super closely. Like, that would be maybe the most likely thing of all the unlikely things that happen, where Dobbs gets traded for one of those tight ends that they were going to have to cut. I don't think you want to give up draft capital if you're Indy. The odds are just still very, very low, because when Dobbs has 12 career passes, when his preseason tape's a little spotty, when obviously the Raiders game was ugly last year, like, there just isn't a ton of value, and that's just what history tells us.
Speaking of the second half of the joshing around, Josh Jones.
Yeah, well, what was interesting with him is that he's going to go back to their IR, right, or NFI list if he doesn't get claimed, correct?
That's what, when I wrote that report initially, all that we knew was he was waived.
Right.
We since, we later in the afternoon, and I updated my post with this as well, too, and I'll put this on Twitter. He was waived with a non-football illness. So that means if nobody claims him today, that he should revert back to their non-football illness, reserve non-football illness.
The way that Alexander Myers did with Steelers.
Exactly the same. So he might not even be available after all. You know, you would have to know what's going on with him, and I guess think that that there really is no illness to them. It's just him. His illness is Green Bay, wanting out of Green Bay. Anything's possible, I guess. Something's going on with him. And look, here's the thing too. I don't like the way that he's kind of handled this thing with Green Bay.
No, I don't either, and I think the odds of them putting in a waiver claim the Steelers are, because that's now their only path to getting him, because if he goes unclaimed, he'll go back to Green Bay, and you can't sign him as a free agent. I think the odds are low. Now, there's history there. The reason why I brought him up is because the Steelers like high pedigree guys that they like come out of the draft. Like, that's what they look for in some of these, waiver claims and trade candidates. But I think the safety depth is a little bit better now with the job Cam Kelly's done. I hear what you're saying about Josh Jones being malcontent in Green Bay, but look, this team traded for Justin Gilbert, and there wasn't a bigger malcontent and issue than Justin Gilbert. So that doesn't bother me a whole lot. The Steelers don't care about, what your path was. You just care about what you're doing once you get to Pittsburgh. But I think the odds of them putting in a claim, not impossible because the history's there, but I think pretty low.
And even if they did claim him, well, they would have to claim him right now to get him.
Yeah.
Which we'll find out.
Yeah, I just checked Twitter. I mean, there's been no report on anything.
And we will know by 4 o'clock Eastern, I think, today, because that's when the report comes out there on him. Yeah. But regardless, you have just 3 days to evaluate him. Not meaning that you can't. I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, that. They did this with Gilbert, a few years ago and all like that. And he obviously had pedigree, and he obviously stuck around for that year. But, I would be shocked to see it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not banking on it. I feel less confident about than I felt about Jordan Leggett, and I didn't feel super confident about that. So I know Leggett was put in for a claim, but the odds seem low. I think Cam Kelly's really helped give him some confidence with rounding out the safety group.
Yeah, I as well. So that was the second half. So people wondering what I was writing about joshing around. It was about Josh Dobbs and Josh Jones there. But either one of those things, I would be surprised happen. Not ruling it out completely, but would be surprised. Nate Hughes writes in, Dear Dave and Alex, I really appreciate your work. The biggest question about Mason Rudolph coming out of school was his arm strength. What are your thoughts on that now? Yeah, I think we answered that, Nate. I mean, look, he's not. How much does velocity matter in the NFL?
I don't know. I mean, you can have analytics that look at that stuff and examine what the threshold is. For me, it's just, I care about accuracy, placement, timing.
Decision making.
Yeah, I mean, again, Rudolph does not have a big arm, but I think his accuracy is placement. I mean, I didn't care about velocity on that 41-yard touchdown he threw last night. I just cared that he threw it in there in stride, and it was a touchdown. So, not something I think about a whole lot.
He goes on to write, looks to me like his good plays are attributable to good decision-making and passing accuracy, but he's not exactly zipping the ball in there. How good is his arm? Right now, good enough. Is it good enough to be a good quarterback? Time will tell. Nobody should be drawing hard conclusions off of what Mason Rudolph did so far this preseason, outside of the fact that we believe he secured the number 2 spot, and that's where we're at.
Yep, pretty much.
He says, thanks, I'll hang up and listen to your answer. Nate Hughes. Thanks, Nate, for the email there. Trying to get through a few more of these. Matthew Kitson writes in, hi, I'm a recent listener, and you guys run a great and well-informed podcast. My question is, what adjustments do you expect to see from Juju moving into the top spot? Do you think in terms of route running and the like, there actually won't be that many noticeable changes in Juju's game? Matthew, look, really, to be honest with you, you might see, look, you obviously, what we saw last night with him, maybe being asked to do more stuff deep, especially in 2 wide receiver sets, maybe be targeted more deep. Not that he wasn't running those deep routes, previously, but I think that was a good look into him potentially playing maybe a little bit more on the outside than he did last year in 3 wide receiver or more sets. He's a good route runner. I mean, I don't think you're going to see a lot different in terms of the routes that he's running, right, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, if he's playing outside more, he may run vertical more often. That would be the big difference there, but I don't think anything's going to be drastically different than what we've seen especially last season compared to this year. Right.
So, I mean, look, everybody, as best as you can feel about losing a top wide receiver in Antonio Brown, you got to be feeling pretty good right now. Right, Alex?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You like to see, obviously, Deontay Johnson not get so far behind the train, but it is what it is, as Mike Tomlin would say. Clegg Ivy writes in. It's a little bit too long to get to right now. Maybe we'll get to this one on Wednesday and some of these other ones as well, too. All right, anything else to add, Alex? We had this show on Monday because of this week. We're going to also have a Wednesday show this week, and that maybe will be a little bit shorter because we're probably not going to have a lot to talk about previewing the game against the Panthers. I don't think we're going to hear – I think the only time we're going to hear from Mike Tomlin is after Tuesday's practice. I don't think there's a full-fledged press conference this week ahead of that game. And then obviously the game Thursday night, Alex and I will get on Friday sometime and recap that for a podcast. And then – we'll see how close either one of us are to our final roster predictions at that time as well, too. The cuts will obviously start coming in, Saturday there? And also, I mean, this thing will start moving real quick moving forward here. So we thought we'd give you 3 shows this week. And, heck, we might be in the 3-show area from here on out now.
I think we are. Yeah, I think we're doing 3 from here on out.
Okay, so that means Monday, Wednesday, and Friday probably from here on out. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, please go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, upper right navigational bar. Also, if you want an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, a lot of people have taken advantage of this. Go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the ad-free button, upper right navigational bar. And until Wednesday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.